They're trotting out Tim Walz, who looks like he got into Hunter's cocaine stash, and he's really rocking it on the campaign trail.
Thank you, Grand Rapids.
He's clapping like a nut, and then, oh my God, what is up with, why is he like a terrible actor in a musical? And he's gonna do jazz hands now? They're the jazz hands, there we go. He's like, well, who's he waving to? Now he's like looking up at the sky and pointing to everybody. What in the world is going on with that guy? He's such a weirdo. I'm sorry, he's a weird guy. He's just a weird dude. But that's what it is. It's weirdness and vibes and beta male energy. And also, of course, shouting that Donald Trump supporters are the scum of the earth. MSNBC's Joy Reid, yesterday, she had on Elie Mystal, who, of course, despises Republicans. And they both suggested that the problem in America is not just Trump, of course, who is the font head of all evil. It is all of his supporters who are similarly evil.
Everything he does is despicable.
The reason why it doesn't end his career is because his supporters are just as despicable. All right. Like Trump's whole thing, he's a narcissist, right? And so his whole thing is to have a complete lack of compassion and empathy for everybody else. It's all about him. That's why he lies about 9/11. It's all about him, me. He's probably the least compassionate president we've had in 200 years since Andrew Jackson. And it works for him because his supporters are just as ungenerous and have just as little compassion and empathy for others. So when he is seen out there, essentially, as you guys have put it, desecrating our national symbols, when he is seen out there putting himself above all else, his supporters also want that to be the case. They want to do that in their own lives. That's how they think of themselves.
Yeah, and they also, he hates the people they hate.
These are just wonderful folks. See, you want to desecrate national symbols. I love that they sit there after the BLM summer of tearing down statues and talk about desecrating national symbols. It's always very amusing. So it's a vibes election for Kamala Harris. The problem, of course, is that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are tied at the hip and their policies continue to suck on like every possible level. So, for example, Afghanistan, complete disaster. One of the great frustrations of watching the debate earlier this week was watching as Donald Trump failed to take advantage of opportunities provided for him on a silver platter. Kamala Harris literally said in that debate she had no regrets whatsoever with regard to Afghanistan. None. That is the biggest opening in world history. Donald Trump should have charged through that thing like an angry bull. He should have said, listen, Vice President, you said you have no regrets. How about like the 13 regrets? You know, like the 13 dead American soldiers. I went to their grave sites. You dinged me for going to their grave sites while ignoring their families. How about the 19 million women? You say you're for women's rights. You say that you actually care. You're super, super compassionate, super empathetic. You care so much about girls and women all over the world. You were perfectly willing to let 19 million women get stuffed into burqas in the basement, forcibly married to men 20 years their elder, and kept away from every aspect of education and beaten if they don't comply. You are perfectly willing to do that for your own glorification. Don't lecture me about empathy and compassion. And he would have been totally right. Here's NATO's Jens Stoltenberg, who's the head of NATO, saying that post-NATO Afghanistan is a complete disaster area. Of course it is. Of course it is. Why isn't this like the number one issue in the election? It should be. It's the most humiliating moment in American foreign policy of my lifetime, by far.
We can safely say that it's gone 360 back to Taliban 1.0. I mean, that is a catastrophe, in fact.
Yeah, extremely bad, and a catastrophe, not least for the people of Afghanistan, in particular women. And I met many women, members of parliament, journalists who begged us to stay. And for many years, I promised that we will stay. We were going to leave on a conditions-based approach. Yeah. So we were only going to leave when we had the confidence that the Afghan government was able to take over and secure the country.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris continues to lie about the economic program of President Trump. She said again in her rally yesterday that Goldman Sachs had analyzed their various plans and come up with the idea that her plan would make the economy boom and his economy would crater. Well, Goldman Sachs' CEO last night was like, no, that's not true. We never said that.
That report, which was mentioned last night in the debate, came from an independent analyst. And it's interesting, Scott. I think a lot more has been made of this than should be. What the report did is it looked at a handful of policy issues that have been put out by both sides, and it tried to model their impact on GDP growth. And the reason I say a bigger deal's been made of it is what it showed is the difference between the sets of policies that they put forward was about 0.2%. I think our clients are trying to look at what's going on from a policy perspective and make judgments. I think this blew up into something that's bigger than what it was intended to be.
So in other words, she was lying about all of that because of course she has to lie. She has to lie about Afghanistan. She has to lie about the economy. She has to lie about immigration. You know, all of this stupid talk about whether dogs and cats are being eaten in Springfield, which again, President Trump, for whatever reason, he tends to glom onto whatever is the memeiest thing of the day. And the memeiest thing of the day, that debate, was all of the Grok AI photos of Donald Trump protecting cats and geese and such. And so Trump, it got it in his head, because he saw it on TV, that they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, eating them in Springfield. And it's become kind of a viral TikTok meme, and it's pretty funny. But the reality is that underlying all that is a pretty serious issue in Springfield, Ohio. Here, for example, is a resident of Springfield, Ohio, talking about how there are lots of homeless people on the streets of Springfield, Ohio. None of those people are being given stipends by the federal government so they can get housing, but new Haitian immigrants are.
The homeless problem. I don't know of a single homeless Haitian in this town because they all got vouchers. But I can show you a whole bunch of people that have been displaced because I'm that guy. Rob, you know, for 25 years, I've worked with the homeless in this community.
Okay. It is, again, these are all major problems. And Kamala Harris is ignoring all of them in favor of jabber about vibes and compassion and the future. Are you tired of the lies and the twist of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.